So just to get started, can you talk a little bit about preparing for the role of Kirk, such an interesting character, and more specifically, like what was your relationship like with Oscar on set, since your characters have such an interesting dynamic?
Yeah, the relationship was great. You know, we worked together once before, and Oscar's a super cool guy. Very easy to be around and work with, and he's very professional. He's brings a certain level of focus to the set, and I think it's really admirable. You know, everybody sees that and respects that. So it's fun working with people who are very serious about their jobs and excited to be there and passionate about it. I guess that was the dynamic on set between us. It was, you know, off camera. I think mostly just both of us are music nerds, so constantly sharing music recommendations back and forth, and that was fun. Yeah.
Did you guys get into any real card playing? I don't know if you're a card aficionado or anything, but did that kind of seep into the offset?
Yeah, I mean, there were. I think even before we started shooting, you know, Oscar was going and playing at a lot of the casinos down at the poker table quite a bit, and then I think he would play, you know, when he had time, you know, after lunch or something like that. He might go play a few hands. You know, I'd sit around and kind of watch. I wouldn't really. I'm not too much of a gambler myself.
You know, I know you guys shot like right before the pandemic started becoming a thing. And I know it kind of briefly halted production for a little bit, but I'm just curious, were there any challenges to shooting in that environment? Because right before we all knew, you know, what it was actually going to become.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was such a weird thing, you know, because I think we were, you know, in the second week of shooting, and I remember Paul turned to me and he's reading on his phone, you know, coronavirus updates. And he's like, I don't think we're going to be able to finish the film. And this is right when, you know, we had the first case. It was like late February, right when we had the first case in the US. And I thought in my head, I was thinking, he's paranoid, you know, like there's no way that we're not going to be able to finish this film. You know, it's only a 4-week shoot. And at the end of the third week, or right before we started the last week of shooting, the fourth week, the producers called me and said, you know, we've had someone on our crew test positive, so we can't shoot. We're gonna have to postpone. And it was just bizarre how quickly it happened and how real it became. And at first, you know, it was like, yeah, like that won't happen. But it quickly became a reality. And Paul predicted it.
What you've worked with a lot of cool directors in your career thus far. What would you say makes Paul stand out apart from the rest of the guys you've worked with?
I mean, he shoots for the stars. I think he's a bold filmmaker and a bold storyteller, and I think that's evident in all of his work. You know, and I think he's the type of guy who's willing to go out and make the movie that nobody else is thinking about making, you know, or take that risk. So, I mean, I respect Paul in that sense. And, you know, obviously he's got an incredible body of work, both as a writer and a director. And I think I was just super excited to work with a living legend and get to see him and doing his craft and, you know, in reality.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much for your time, Tye, and congrats on the film.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Take care.
This is how it starts. It builds and builds, has a life of its own. There is a weight a man can accrue.
This is where all the good stuff happens.
The weight created by his past actions. It is a weight which can never be removed.
All in.
You count cards, right?
I'm not that smart.
But you win. You need someone to stake you.
That's what you do. You run a stable.
I'm always looking for a good thoroughbred.
Having been sentenced to 10 years in prison, I learned to count cards.
How'd you do that?
Poker's all about waiting.
Check, raise, re-raise, call.
Then something happens.
You remember him?
This is where all the good stuff happens.
They made you the fall guy. You need to back off.
You've been around him. He's a mystery. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
This is how it starts. Just a fleeting thought,
You might want a piece of what I'm gonna do.
then it builds.
What is that? Set things straight.
It doesn't matter to me if you did something bad in your past.
Nothing can justify what we did.
We are each responsible for our own actions.
You know the phrase tilt, just like in pinball. Any man can tilt. You can tilt.
Is it possible to know when one reaches the limit?
You have to be the strangest poker player I ever met.
Oh, you have no idea.
Mm.